Introduction to the epic. First published in its entirety in 1869, War and Peace is not just a novel, but a massive historical epic. Set against the backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars, 1805 to 1820, the book charts the history of the French invasion of Russia and the impact of the Napoleonic era on Tsarist society. Tolstoy achieves this through the interconnected stories of 5 Russian aristocratic families: the Rostovs, the Bolkonskys, the Bezukhovs, the Kuragins, and the Drubetskoy family. The novel moves fluidly between 2 major themes: peace, the domestic lives, loves, balls, and personal struggles of the Russian nobility in St. Petersburg and Moscow, and war, the brutal reality of the battlefields of Austerlitz, Borodino, and the burning of Moscow. The major characters. To understand the plot, it is essential to know the core characters who drive the narrative. Pierre Bezukhov, the awkward, idealistic, and incredibly wealthy illegitimate son of a Russian count. He represents the spiritual search for the meaning of life. Andrew Andrei Bolkonsky, a cynical, intelligent, and brave prince who seeks glory on the battlefield to escape the emptiness of high society life. Natasha Rostova, a lively, joyful, and deeply emotional young girl from a loving Moscow family. She serves as the emotional heart of the novel. Nikolai Rostov, Natasha's older brother, a loyal, patriotic hussar, cavalry officer, who experiences both the romance and terror of war. Mara Bolkonskaya, Andrew's deeply religious, gentle sister, who lives under the tyrannical rule of their eccentric father. Helene Kuragina, a stunningly beautiful but cold, manipulative, and immoral woman who marries Pierre for his money. Anatole Kuragin, Helene's handsome, reckless brother, who destroys lives for his own pleasure. Part 1. High Society and the Gathering Storm, 1805. The novel opens in July 1805 at a glamorous St. Petersburg soirée hosted by Anna Pavlovna Scherer. The high society elite are gossiping about Napoleon Bonaparte, whom many view as an antichrist, though some secretly admire him. We are introduced to Pierre Bezukhov, who has just returned from studying abroad. Pierre is socially clumsy and expresses radical pro-Napoleon views that shock the guests. His closest friend, Prince Andrew Bolkonsky, is also at the party. Andrew is miserable in his marriage to his pregnant wife, Lise. Seeking escape and military glory, Andrew decides to join the army as an aide-de-camp to General Kutuzov to fight against Napoleon's advancing forces. Meanwhile, Pierre's life changes overnight. His dying father, the incredibly wealthy Count Bezukhov, legitimizes him in his will, making Pierre one of the richest men in Russia. Suddenly, the society that ignored Pierre now worships him. The greedy Prince Vasily Kuragin manipulates Pierre into marrying his beautiful but unfaithful daughter Helene. In contrast to the superficial society of St. Petersburg, we meet the warm-hearted Rostov family in Moscow. Their teenage daughter Natasha is full of life, energy, and innocence. Her older brother Nikolai enthusiastically joins the army to fight for Russia, leaving behind his cousin Sonia, with whom he is in love. Part 2. The War of 1805 and the Battle of Austerlitz. The scene shifts to the military front in Austria. Napoleon is sweeping through Europe, and the Russian forces have allied with the Austrians to stop him. Nikolai Rostov gets his first taste of battle at Schöngrabern. The romantic illusions he had about military glory are instantly shattered when he is wounded in the arm and witnesses the chaotic, unglamorous reality of war. Prince Andrew, on the other hand, shows immense bravery. He believes his Toulon, his moment of ultimate glory like Napoleon's early victory, is coming. The climax of this campaign occurs at the Battle of Austerlitz in December 1805. The Allied forces, Russia and Austria, are completely crushed by Napoleon's brilliant military tactics. During the chaotic retreat, Andrew tries to rally the troops by charging forward with a fallen flag. He is severely wounded and falls to the ground. As he lies bleeding on the battlefield, looking up at the vast, peaceful, and infinite sky, he realizes that his desire for fame and glory was completely meaningless. Napoleon himself walks past Andrew's body, commenting on how beautiful a death it is. Andrew, barely conscious, realizes that even his idol Napoleon is insignificant compared to the infinite sky above. Part 3. The Interwar Years, 1806 to 1811. Back in Russia, Andrew is presumed dead. He miraculously survives and returns home to his family's estate, Bald Hills, on the exact night his wife Lise goes into labor. Tragically, Lise dies, giving birth to their son, Nikolai. Andrew is consumed by grief and guilt, vowing never to serve in the military again, choosing a quiet life of retirement. Meanwhile, Pierre's marriage to Helene becomes a nightmare. After discovering that she is having an affair with the arrogant officer Dolokhov, Pierre challenges Dolokhov to a duel. Despite having never fired a pistol, Pierre accidentally wounds Dolokhov. Shaken by the experience and disgusted by his wife, Pierre separates from Helene. In his search for spiritual peace, Pierre joins the Freemasons, hoping to dedicate his life to charity and freeing his serfs. However, his idealistic reforms fail due to his own naivety and the corruption of his managers. In 1809, Andrew visits the Rostov estate on business. There, he hears a young Natasha Rostova singing by her window at night. Her vibrant energy rekindles his desire to live. They meet again at a grand ball in St. Petersburg, where they fall deeply in love. Andrew proposes to Natasha, but his strict, tyrannical father demands they wait 1 year before marrying. Andrew reluctantly agrees and travels abroad to recover his health. This separation proves disastrous. While Andrew is away, Natasha visits Moscow and is introduced to the high society circle of Helen and her brother. Anatole Kuragin. Anatole, a handsome rogue, targets the innocent Natasha. He seduces her and convinces her to elope with him, even though he is secretly already married. Natasha breaks off her engagement to Andrew. The elopement plan is foiled at the last minute by Natasha's godmother. When Natasha learns the truth about Anatole's secret marriage, she falls into a deep, suicidal depression. Pierre, visiting to comfort her, realizes that he has secretly loved Natasha all along. He looks up at the sky and spots the great comet of 1812, feeling a sense of hope and a new beginning. Part 4. The Invasion of Russia, 1812. The fragile peace between France and Russia shatters. In June 1812, Napoleon crosses the Niemen River, invading Russian territory with his massive Grand Armée. The Russian army is forced to retreat deeper into their own country, burning their own fields and towns so the French cannot use them. This scorched earth strategy is masterminded by the wise elderly General Kutuzov, who believes that patience and time, rather than aggressive battles, will defeat Napoleon. Prince Andrew, deeply hurt by Natasha's betrayal, rejoins the army. He refuses a safe staff position and chooses to command a regiment on the front lines, feeling a deep bond with the ordinary Russian soldiers. As the French army approaches Moscow, the defining battle of the novel takes place, the Battle of Borodino, September 1812. Pierre Bezukhov, wanting to witness the war firsthand, travels to the battlefield. Dressed in a civilian white top hat and green coat, he wanders onto the front lines at the Raevsky Redoubt. Pierre witnesses the horrific, visceral slaughter of war. He sees the quiet, collective bravery of the ordinary soldiers, who fight not for personal glory, but out of a simple, spiritual love for their homeland. During the battle, Prince Andrew's regiment is held in reserve under heavy artillery fire. A French shell lands right next to Andrew. Instead of diving for cover, his pride prevents him from showing fear. The shell explodes, severely wounding him in the stomach. In the hospital tent, facing death, Andrew sees Anatole Kuragin nearby, whose leg is being amputated. Instead of anger, Andrew feels a wave of universal love, forgiveness, and pity for his enemy. Part 5. The Burning of Moscow and the French Retreat. Although Borodino is a bloody stalemate, Kutuzov makes the controversial decision to abandon Moscow to save the remaining Russian army. The citizens of Moscow flee in panic. The Rostov family evacuates their wealthy home, but Natasha insists on emptying their carts of luxury goods to make room for wounded soldiers. Unbeknownst to her, one of the wounded soldiers they are carrying is Prince Andrew. Pierre chooses to stay behind in Moscow, disguised as a peasant. He develops an obsessive, mystical plan to assassinate Napoleon. However, he is arrested by the French for saving a child from a fire and trying to protect a woman from French soldiers. Pierre is thrown into a prison camp. Here, he meets a simple peasant soldier named Platon Karataev. Karataev is the embodiment of everything Tolstoy admired. He is kind, entirely unselfish, and lives completely in the present moment, accepting his fate with peace. Through Karataev, Pierre finally finds the spiritual peace and meaning of life he had searched for in philosophy, wealth, and Freemasonry. He realizes that happiness does not come from external circumstances, but from the soul within. Napoleon enters Moscow, expecting the Tsar to surrender. Instead, he finds a ghost town that soon catches fire, destroying French supplies. With winter approaching and no food, Napoleon is forced to begin a catastrophic retreat. During the brutal winter retreat, the French march their prisoners across the frozen wasteland. Platon Karatai falls ill and is shot by the French guards. Pierre is eventually rescued by a band of Russian partisans led by Denisov and Dolokhov. Tragically, young Petya Rostov, Natasha's youngest brother, is killed in the skirmish. Meanwhile, the Rostovs take refuge in Yaroslavl, where Natasha discovers that Andrew is among their wounded. She nurses him devotedly, and they reconcile. For a brief period, Andrew experiences a profound spiritual peace, but his wound is mortal. He accepts his approaching death with absolute calmness and passes away, leaving Natasha heartbroken. Part 6. Epilogue and New Beginnings, 1813 to 1820. The war ends with the complete destruction of Napoleon's Grande Armée. The French are driven out of Russia, and Europe is restored to peace. The novel's first epilogue jumps forward to 1820, showing how the surviving characters have rebuilt their lives. Pierre and Natasha are married. Natasha has transformed from a wild, romantic girl into a devoted, practical mother of 4 children. Pierre has found true domestic happiness and remains politically active, joined in spirit with liberal movements seeking social reform in Russia. Nikolai Rostov marries Marya Bolkonskaya, Andrew's sister. Nikolai takes over the management of the bankrupt Rostov estates, paying off his late father's debts through hard work. Together with Marya, they create a loving, prosperous home and take in Andrew's orphan son, young Nikolai Bolkonsky. The final pages show the next generation growing up. Young Nikolai Bolkonsky idolizes his late father and his uncle Pierre, dreaming of doing great things for his country. Philosophical themes of the epilogue. In the second epilogue, Tolstoy steps completely away from the story to deliver a long philosophical essay on history and free will. Tolstoy heavily criticizes traditional historians who believe that great men like Napoleon or Tsar Alexander shape history through their own genius or willpower. Instead, Tolstoy argues for fatalism. He believes that history is moved by the collective, unconscious actions of millions of ordinary individuals working together, the power of the masses. According to Tolstoy, Napoleon did not control the invasion of Russia. He was merely a tool of historical necessity. A general like Kutuzov succeeded because he understood this, choosing to align himself with the natural flow of events and the spirit of the Russian people, rather than trying to enforce his own ego onto history.